In the darkness of the night, heavy rain poured against the walls of the castle. Inside, a baby slept peacefully in his crib, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Close to him, a man with a dark, hateful expression stared at the infant and muttered just 2 words, "How disgusting." Our MC reveals that the reason behind his miserable life is another child who was born on the same day and time, Kazan. Blessed by Kashak, the blade god, Kazan possessed a strong body and exceptional talent. From the very beginning, even our MC's mother looked at him with disappointment. The reason behind his parents' hatred was soon revealed: he was born without a right arm. Every night, his mother would hold him under the moonlight shining through the window and whisper in his ear, "Please die for my sake." But the child would silently respond in his heart, "Sorry, mother. I cannot die, because before I was born, I heard my father say that his child would become their hope." His father, who could never surpass his brothers, pinned all his hopes on his son, wishing he would become more talented than them. However, fate was cruel. His father dreamed of him defeating Kazan, but with only one arm and no blessing from the gods, that dream was shattered. That was the so-called sin of our MC. The scene shifts to a few years later. Kazan is seen playing in the garden with the maids, who cheer and praise him endlessly. Nearby, our MC's mother stands silently, watching with sorrow. Kazan had already begun walking, while her son still struggled. By the time our MC learned to walk, Kazan was already wielding a sword. When he finally learned how to hold a sword, Kazan had already mastered sensing mana and was learning the Sami-1 sword style. Our MC's life was filled with regret and disappointment. He wanted to be like Kazan, but deep down, he also hated him. Then, the scene shifts again. A cart moves slowly through the snow toward its destination. Inside, our MC explains that when he was 7, he was sent to become Kazan's servant. His father had sold him to his cousin Kazan for just 300,000 rudens. Soon after, we see our MC, Davin, tied to a tree in the snow. Kazan stands before him, laughing cruelly at his crippled state. Holding a whip in his hand, Kazan smirks and calls Davin an idiot before lashing him mercilessly. Davin's body is covered in wounds, but he holds back his tears, not because it doesn't hurt, but because he knows no one cares. Everyone stands behind Kazan, enjoying Davin's helplessness. His uncle, once a noble, had left the castle long ago and never returned. With no father to protect him, Kazan grew up into a monster, flaunting his power by tormenting the weak. The blessings and gifts Kazan was born with became poison to his personality. One day, during a sparring session, Kazan beat an opponent badly before turning his wooden sword toward Davin. With fury burning in his heart, Davin gripped his sword tightly and charged at Kazan, hoping to match his strength. But Kazan crushed that glimmer of hope instantly, slamming Davin against the wall with full force and mocking him as an armed moron. He beat Davin for daring to stand against him. Davin dreamed of defeating Kazan and trained tirelessly in the forest while Kazan indulged in women and drugs, neglecting his training. Yet, despite all his efforts, Davin never succeeded. The scene shifts to the battle arena, where Kazan faces off against Davin. Kazan is going all out against his opponent, and the crowd roars in excitement. Davin takes a heavy blow, but fueled by revenge and unwilling to lose again, he refuses to back down. His body begins to emit a powerful aura as he slams his sword into the ground. Kazan watches in shock, fear flickering in his eyes. Suddenly, Davin charges with his full strength, launching himself into the air above Kazan and striking down with a single arm. Kazan struggles to defend himself, but then, a massive explosion erupts in the center of the arena. The crowd gasps in disbelief, stunned by the sheer force of the attack. As the dust settles, the scene reveals Davin holding his sword against Kazan's neck. The Stormblade Kazan has fallen. Davin, at the age of 29, finally defeats Kazan after 22 brutal encounters. Humiliation is written all over Kazan's face. For years, people mocked Davin, telling him to quit every time Kazan crushed him. But today, Davin has fulfilled his father's dream, defeating the maniac Kazan. The arena erupts, chanting Davin's name. Meanwhile, Kazan stands frozen in disbelief. How could he lose to someone who fights with just one arm? Davin recalls the countless words of encouragement from his parents and delivers a reality check to Kazan. "If I were born like you, I would never have wasted my life the way you did. I would have lived a life far more meaningful than yours." With those words, Davin turns and walks away, a true hero at last, or so it seemed. Suddenly, Kazan stabs Davin from behind. The crowd is horrified, murmuring in shock at Kazan's treachery. Davin smiles faintly and calls Kazan a disgrace. Kazan trembles uncontrollably, fear consuming him. For Davin, this moment is cruel. He never got to truly savor his victory or share the news with his father. He wouldn't have survived the attack if not for Layla, the holy saint, who intervened with a miracle. Davin regains consciousness, tied to a chair. "Am I in hell?" he asks, only to see a towering man standing before him. The giant scoffs, calling him lucky that Layla was present in the arena. Shocked, Davin asks why the saint would waste her powers on someone like him. The giant coldly reminds him of the contract he made with a demon, words that shake Davin to his core. The truth unravels: his parents testified against him, evidence of forbidden rituals and the sacrifice of 300 children has surfaced, and there's no escaping judgment. Kazin killed him only to protect the Samiwon family's reputation. Davin realizes he defeated Kazin, but he could never defeat the power of House Samiwon. For his sins, the giant declares, Davin will be imprisoned for life, his mana sealed forever. Dragged by knights into the darkest depths of the prison, where no sunlight reaches, Davin is thrown into despair. Kazin, now celebrated as the Blade King and hailed as a genius, mocks him. Ironically, Kazin owes his newfound glory to Davin. Left to rot, Davin is starved and humiliated, yearning for an honorable death. He regrets not dying in the arena. Collapsing on the cold floor, he wonders, what if I'd been born with 2 arms? A direct descendant? Blessed by Kashak? He still clings to life, yet fate has something else in store. A faint light flickers before him, a glimmer of hope piercing the darkness. A strange voice echoes in his ears, and suddenly, he opens his eyes in shock. A man is gripping his shoulder, calling him Vincent. Pain surges through his right arm, surprising him even more. He isn't sure if he's dreaming, or why the dream feels so real. As he focuses on the man holding him, realization strikes: this is a distant relative of the family. But how does he remember all this? And, above all, why is he being called Vincent, the 7th son of House Adenka? Why is he witnessing these memories? The air feels clearer, almost refreshing, compared to his suffocating past life in a prison cell. Yet he still believes this new reality might be a dream. In this dream, he has a right arm, a thought that makes him wonder if this is some final gift before his death. The man shouts again, demanding why Vincent is ignoring him, and suddenly uses mana to attack. Instinctively, Vincent recalls the technique to counter this strike. He grabs the man's arm and pushes him away with full force. The man slams into the wall, yet Vincent knows he didn't push that hard. The man stares at him in shock, realizing this kid can use mana. Vincent apologizes and extends a hand to help him up, but the man rejects it with contempt, calling him an impudent brat. "I don't care if you're a direct descendant," the man warns coldly. "My son will make sure you're put in your place. You'll be the first descendant to lose to a distant relative." Vincent watches him, sensing an unsettling familiarity. This man reminds him of his father from his past life, a man obsessed with defeating his own brother, who forced his unfulfilled ambitions onto Vincent, branding him a failure. As the relative walks away, arrogance dripping from his words, he adds, "I'll remember this. See you at the blade competition." Vincent watches his cold figure disappear, still processing the encounter. After the chaos, he sits on a chair, trying to grasp this new, dreamlike reality. Closing his eyes triggers another wave of memories: a mother who died giving birth to him, a father who never cared, and siblings who bullied him relentlessly. He recalls being the 7th son of House Adenka, crying alone in his room after his younger sister, Roa, slapped him for no reason. He was an unwanted direct descendant, a perfect target for distant relatives. Reincarnated as Vincent, his new life seems no better than his past one as Davin. He rises from the chair, still drowning in questions. Why is he so different from his siblings? Why do his relatives want to crush him? Is he the defective child of House Adenka? The diary he finds is filled with self-loathing, proof that Vincent had long given up on life. He wonders if God reincarnated them both to fulfill their last wishes, where Davin wanted to live and Vincent wanted to die. He still couldn't believe all this nonsense. Suddenly, he sensed another presence in the room. As he turned to see who it was, he heard someone calling him stupid and naive. Vincent couldn't see anyone and assumed it was a ghost haunting him. The voice then claimed to be the real Vincent, shocking the Davin within Vincent's body. The real Vincent explained that he is now known as Julien, a name given to him after his death. Vincent was stunned to realize he was still alive and asked how this was possible. Julien revealed that a revelation had been bestowed, words passed down by a god to humanity. Vincent then remembered that children born with blessings could hear revelations. Curious, he asked if Julien was a god. Julien confirmed but clarified that he was only a minor god for now. However, he could become a true god by achieving a goal known as vindication. Vincent tried to make sense of it all and asked if this had anything to do with him. Julien explained that Vincent had been given a new life and shouldn't waste it ignoring reality. He recounted their situation and the reincarnation process, warning that his spiritual energy was almost depleted. Once it ran out, Vincent would die again. Vincent became furious, interpreting it as a threat. He felt perfectly healthy and even checked his pulse, convinced Julien was lying. But then his expression darkened, and before he could react, he collapsed to the floor. Julien mocked him, calling him a fool, and then revealed Vincent's true memories, replacing the false ones he had been living with. A bolt of lightning struck Vincent, transferring all his memories back. He saw scenes of people trampling him, calling him trash, and even his own sibling slapping him. But those were lies. In truth, he had pretended to be weak while secretly plotting revenge. Vincent was shocked by the revelation and began questioning his reincarnation into this world. Julien, who had spent his time alone studying forbidden tomes, then asked if Vincent was ready to hear his full story, promising not to harm him. Vincent nodded, and Julien dropped a bombshell. He asked if Vincent knew about Davin, the Grand Demon, and Kazan, the King of Heroes. Vincent shouted in disbelief. He was stunned and enraged to learn that they had framed Davin as a demon. Julien reveals that everything began 500 years ago when Davin, the one-armed man, escaped from the House Samywan prison. After his escape, Davin formed a contract with a demon and slaughtered over 100,000 children to gain immense power. This atrocity is why he is remembered as the Grand Demon in history. Vincent is shocked to learn that he has been reincarnated in the future and wonders if such a thing is even possible. He speculates that there might be another Davin and another Kazan because, according to his memories, he died 500 years ago. He recalls being imprisoned by House Samywan and dying alone in that prison. Meanwhile, Kazan rose to become the Blade King. Vincent grows furious at what he believes is a fabricated story and questions its authenticity. Slamming his hand on the desk, he curses House Samywan in anger. Julien then claims that Kazan deliberately portrayed Davin as a grand demon in history to enhance the reputation of House Samywan. This revelation enrages Vincent even more, and he hurls books at Julien. Julien mocks him, calling him the Ancient One, and states that only the strong have the privilege of writing history. Vincent doubts his own age. How could he be just 13 when his mind is consumed with dark thoughts of revenge and malice? Choosing to ignore Julien, Vincent sinks back into his chair while Julien continues his tale. After Davin's escape, Kazan joined forces with the Solar Blade King and killed Davin to end the terror of the Grand Demon. Vincent is stunned to hear about the Solar Blade King and asks for more details. Julien reveals that the Solar Blade King was Aslan, their ancestor. Vincent laughs mockingly and says, "Aslan? That snot-nosed kid?" He then recalls the boy who once served Davin in his past life and deeply admired him. Back then, Aslan wanted to be like Davin, who considered Aslan his only true student and younger brother. Vincent wonders why he ever cared for someone so weak, a boy who didn't even have his right arm. He remembers that Aslan frequently visited him in prison, the only one who believed in his innocence. Aslan even swore to avenge him, no matter what. But after their last meeting, he never returned. Julien then reveals that Aslan left House Adenka with an important mission tied to Julien's own achievements. When Vincent presses for details, Julien, with a cold, dark expression, declares the mission, to eliminate House Samywan and uncover the truth. Vincent exhales deeply, relieved that at least Aslan knew he was innocent. Rising with renewed confidence, he concludes there must be a reason Aslan left House Filker, founded House Adenka, and commanded his descendants to seek the truth. Perhaps House Adenka was created to restore Davin's honor, and maybe this is why Vincent was reincarnated. Connecting the dots, Vincent realizes Julien must fulfill his ancestor's goal to become a true god. Julien then offers Vincent a gift, and even his body, if Vincent helps him achieve his purpose. Vincent walks past him in silence. Julien calls out, "It's a win-win situation for you," but Vincent ignores him. Gripping his sword, Vincent thanks Aslan and vows to complete his mission. He promises to surpass House Samywan and take revenge on the family that betrayed him and left him helpless. As he leaves, Julien asks where he is going, but before Vincent can answer, they hear the sound of sparring nearby. Following the noise, they discover knights training. Vincent grows curious about the fighting style of this era and wonders about the strength of Kazan's descendants. Suddenly, his body feels heavy, and he collapses to the ground. Later, back in his room, Vincent realizes this body is weak. He cannot move freely, so he resolves to train. While working on his mana flow, he senses something unusual and calls for Julien. Half asleep, Julien asks what the commotion is about, only to be grabbed tightly by an enraged Vincent. Vincent demands to know why Julien never practiced swordsmanship. Julien replies that he was never able to, which only fuels Vincent's anger. Vincent, born with blessed bones, cannot fathom why Julien never trained. When Julien asks what he means by blessed bones, Vincent explains that it's the ability to store mana within one's bones. Julien, dumbfounded, admits he has never heard of such a thing. Vincent elaborates, warriors store mana in their bones to enhance strength and abilities, whereas ordinary humans store mana in their hearts. Those with blessed bones can absorb limitless mana, making them far superior. Still skeptical, Yulian questions whether such a concept even exists. Vincent then reveals that even the hero he admires, Kazan, possessed blessed bones. It was ironic that Vincent was reborn into a body blessed with strong bones, yet the world around him was completely different from what he knew. We see Yulian informing Vincent that it is no longer possible to create an imaginary core within the heart. Vincent, unfamiliar with this concept, listens as Yulian explains that the core is like a bowl in the imagination that collects mana. Vincent then asks if people no longer gather mana in their hearts and also inquires about meditation forms, leaving Yulian completely dumbfounded. Yulian reveals that his ancestor, Aslan, possessed the perfect meditation method for collecting mana in the heart. However, in this era, people gather mana in their imaginary core, known as a mana star, and a warrior's strength depends on the number of mana stars they can form. Vincent is disappointed by this new reality and wonders what he should do. According to Yulian, only an adult can form the first imaginary core for their children. He explains that the creation of the mana core was meant to avoid the risk of collecting mana directly in the body, as in the past, half of the warriors who attempted to control mana died when their hearts exploded. However, Vincent, confident in his ability to control mana, begins gathering it in his heart. Yulian, terrified, warns him against this, but Vincent insists his heart is strong and there is no need to worry. To Vincent, a true warrior must face danger to grow stronger, and this was the same path Davin once followed to achieve greatness. Yulian then questions how Vincent manages to split mana within his body. Vincent reveals that there is a far more effective way to handle mana, by relying on instinct, as they did in the past. Yulian expresses concern, asking about the failures of this method. Vincent admits that nearly half of those who tried this approach exploded, but for him, a 50% success rate is acceptable. Yulian calls him reckless and insists that his body must be treated with more care. Despite being born with blessed bones and having stable mana pathways, Yulian wonders why he is so weak. If he had been born in House Samyuan, he might have become a great figure. His body was left starved of mana for 13 years, and if neglected any longer, he might not survive to adulthood. Determined, Vincent begins meditating to strengthen himself and realizes that his body has only about 10 years left, but that's enough time for him to complete his mission. While meditating, someone knocks on the door, asking what he's doing inside. Vincent wonders who it could be, but before he can respond, an angry boy bursts in, demanding to know why the room is such a mess. Vincent rises and asks if the boy is his servant, which the boy arrogantly confirms. This servant is Wilson, and Yulian silently vows to punish him in 3 years for his behavior. Vincent smirks, removes his clothes, throws them toward Wilson, and orders him to fetch new ones and clean the room. Wilson is shocked at Vincent's boldness and notices that he seems stronger than before. Still stunned, Wilson asks if the young master was performing strange experiments. When Vincent denies it, the servant grows furious, humiliating him for the mess and even threatening to report him to the head of the family for punishment. Remaining calm, Vincent questions Wilson's behavior and reminds him of his duty. When the servant continues shouting, Vincent darkens his expression, takes his clothes back, and declares that he will go to the head attendant himself to get new clothes, and complain that Wilson refuses to obey orders. At that moment, Wilson realizes that this Vincent is no longer the same person. Panicking, he quickly grabs the clothes from Vincent, promises to fetch new ones, and even agrees to clean the room. This new version of Vincent refuses to let anyone humiliate him.